Real Virginia is proudly produced by the Virginia Farm Bureau Federation. Since 1926, Farm Bureau has been working to preserve Virginia farms and our rural heritage. Visit our website at vafb.com.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Real Virginia, a show about Virginia agriculture and the people who produce the wonderful local products we enjoy. Brought to you by the Virginia Farm Bureau. It's not too soon to be thinking about next winter's maple syrup harvest. In fact, Virginia Tech is helping syrup producers organize a new association. We have a classic fall recipe for you to try from the heart of the home. And we visit the county where Virginia begins, Lee County, in our County Agricultural Close-Up feature.
Home will always be Virginia, between the Blue Ridge and Chesapeake Bay, Atlantic to Appalachia, home in my heart always.
Welcome back to Real Virginia, everyone. We're coming to you this week from Powhatan Farmers Market. It's been hot and sticky lately, but maple syrup season is only 5 months away. Ricky Gibson reports researchers and syrup producers are working together to make it easier to buy Virginia maple syrup.
There are only about 30 commercial maple syrup producers in the Old Dominion. Sales of maple syrup earned them about $66,000 a few years ago. But there are plenty of hobbyists who also tap sugar maple trees to draw sap for personal use or local sales. Virginia Tech researchers would love to see those numbers grow. In fact, they're sponsoring the development of the Virginia Maple Syrup Association to boost sales of the sweet treat and help new producers learn the skills necessary to make maple syrup.
We're working with about 100 different producers in Virginia with the help of the Department of Agriculture, VDACs, in Richmond, and we're helping to address some of their challenges about starting up or expanding their businesses. And right now there's a large cadre of producers in Highland County, and there are quite a few down further south in Wise County. Most of our producers are in the western part of the state, along the borders with West Virginia and Kentucky. So they're fairly localized there. We have producers in over 20 counties in Virginia, but most of them are unknown to the outside markets. So we're working now to connect those producers to outside markets as well.
Virginia Tech professor Tom Hammett with the College of Natural Resources and Environment has recruited a team to help him build the association. Daniel Grizzard will conduct market research for maple syrup sales and festivals to increase sales. Guinevere Unterbrink has been working to connect producers with each other as well as publicize the new group.
We'll definitely be going to the Highland Maple Syrup Festival and trying to track some of the economic impact that has, not just in terms of the people visiting the area and purchasing maple syrup, but also seeing who's eating at restaurants once they have left the festival, who's staying at hotels during their time there, because these events that bring large numbers of people to the area are a great way to stimulate the whole economy and not just help the maple syrup producers.
So it's called the Virginia Maple Syrup Association because right now a lot of people don't even know maple syrup is produced in Virginia. Before I was on this project, I was unaware of it. So I was talking to one of the producers and she mentioned that and that it would probably be better to call it Maple Syrup Association because it's more focused. But we do also work with people who produce other tree syrups.
Many Virginians don't realize they can buy local maple syrup here, much less taste syrup from other tree varieties. That's a growing niche market for some producers like Christoph Herbie of Highland County, who taps both black walnut and sugar maple trees every winter.
Our farm is located on 200 acres. Most of it is Appalachian hardwood forest, and we produce maple syrup from trees right here on our farm. The walnut syrup is produced exclusively from the trees on our farm. We've got about 1,200 black walnut trees that are tapped to harvest the sap and make syrup. And we also tap maple trees on some of the adjacent properties. Across the road is the McDowell Battlefield. We tap maple trees on that land. And we also tap maple trees on some of the adjacent farms. So there's a lot of collaboration that goes into producing syrups out here.
Located just east of the West Virginia state line, Herbie says Highland County has the perfect altitude and climate for growing sugar maple trees. Plus, the freeze and thaw weather cycles of late winter really gets the tree sap flowing.
We tap little holes into the trees, and through a system of tubing, we collect all the sap, which we then bring here to our sugar house, and we boil it down. And it takes hours and hours, days really, of boiling to take hundreds and thousands of gallons of sap and boil it down into sweet syrup, because the sap comes out of the tree a little over 1% sugar, and we're boiling it all the way to 68% sugar. So a lot of steam has to come off, and all that is boiled over a wood fire, which eventually gets us to having that delicious Virginia maple syrup.
Commercial syrup makers can tap hundreds of trees each winter, but you don't need a lot of trees to produce at least some syrup. Professor Hammett says he knows of hobbyists in Blacksburg and Charlottesville who tap mature maple trees right in town just for fun.
The equipment's fairly simple. In fact, we have a lot of what I call backyard syrup makers, and they're actually cooking it in a turkey fryer, a little stove, a propane stove that you might cook your turkey in and deep fry other things like French fries. So we're using that same mechanism to boil down sap. It's a pretty simple process. And at the end, what you do is you finish it, and you could do that on the stove in your kitchen. You don't need any special equipment for that. So many of our producers are making 1 or 2 gallons, and they're just giving it away at Christmas time, or maybe selling a few bottles locally at a farmer's market or something like that.
Hammett says many landowners with wooded lots don't realize they could start a side business of producing tree syrups. Unterbrink says you can do it anywhere in the state where you have enough of the right tree species.
There's people all over the state following the range of sugar maple, but I would say the most populous counties for maple syrup production are Highland County and Wise County. But it's all over the state, so. We even have some producers who use red maple in Virginia Beach, so. And you can actually mix different types of maple sap together to get different flavored syrup.
One of the really special things about getting good local maple syrup is that it comes in different grades, and that depends on what time of year we've harvested it. So the very first sap of the season is going to give us a really light, delicate flavored syrup, kind of golden in color. And then as the weather warms up a little bit, the trees are releasing more nutrients. They're getting ready to produce their leaves, and so there's more flavor compounds. There are more flavor compounds in the sap, and that's what leads to a darker, richer syrup.
Herbie started his maple syrup operation when he realized his property was already an old sugar camp. But he realized with all the black walnut trees on the farm, he had an opportunity to branch out into walnut syrup. The production methods are the same, but equipment needs are slightly different. That's the type of knowledge the Virginia Maple Syrup Association could pass on to members, as well as help producers meet the standards needed to brand their syrup as Virginia's finest and other marketing tools.
We're not trying to compete with the big brands you see on the supermarket shelves, but just getting the word out that there's syrup made right here in Virginia, and that you can come here and try it, but you can also find it in supermarkets and specialty stores throughout the state.
Herbie says you're not going to find black walnut syrup in Canada or Vermont. It's a product unique to the Allegheny Highlands mountain region. That's just one of the marketing advantages they hope to take advantage of next season. In Highland County, Virginia, I'm Ricky Gibson reporting.
The Highland County Maple Festival is the premier event for Virginia maple syrup lovers. Held over 2 weekends every March, the event brings visitors from all over the country to enjoy fresh pancakes and syrup, along with everything else maple, from candy to donuts. The festival's been canceled for the past 2 years, but organizers are planning a big return in 2022. In the meantime, there's a Virginia Maple Syrup Tour, where you can visit 8 sugar camps in the county any time of the year to taste their different syrup flavors and products. You can learn more at virginiamaplesyrup.com.
Hi, today we're going to be talking about planting in the rain from the ground up. Please stay tuned.
We're stronger together, especially at this difficult time. For over 90 years, we've watched our membership grow, and we're honored to be part of such a special community. Thank you to the farmers who provide for us every day. Virginia Farm Bureau is proud to serve our members, their families, and to give back to our local communities. That's the Farm Bureau way.
You'd think a little rain wouldn't be good for gardeners, right? But Chris Mullins with Virginia Cooperative Extension says sometimes a little rain is exactly what you need. From the ground up.
Well, hello and welcome. Today we're at the Fauquier Education Farm. We're here with Mr. Jim Hankins, the Executive Director of the farm. Jim, thanks for letting us come out and talk to you today on this very rainy day. What are we going to talk about?
You know, every farmer loves rain, and I am just absolutely thrilled about this particular rainstorm. And it was a perfect time. I had a group of volunteers this morning, and we've set out several thousand transplants. They had gotten a little bit leggy, a little bit big. If I had done that on a 95-degree sunny day, they'd be dead this afternoon. Taking advantage of weather like this is the right thing to do in the garden. It's the best thing to do for your plants. You know, it might look kind of sad right now because they've just come out of the seed trays, but I feel that these plants are getting their very best leg because I was willing to work in the rain this morning.
Exactly, and you know from the weather report that maybe tomorrow it might be a little overcast and rainy too, and that's perfect conditions for these to really do well.
Transplants are really, really sensitive, you know, and every plant that you put into the ground is going to go through what we call transplant shock. At first, even if you've got a whole lot of water there, it's going to look a little sad. But if you've got a whole lot of water, if you've got a good overcast rainy day, that's the best time to put your plants out.
It really helps those young plants. And sadly enough, I do see some gardeners sometimes that are just planting their transplants in the afternoon. It's 90 some degrees. Yep. And it's by the time they're going to have a lot more trouble growing and doing well than these plants that you.
Absolutely, and you know, it's actually a beautiful thing to get the right attitude and go on out in the rain, and you know, your garden will love it, and you know, you're going to maximize your chances of success.
Well, that's great. Good advice for the home gardener, Jim. Thanks so much again for letting us come out today and talk about planting in the rain.
I'm proud, you know, I can hear these little seedlings singing in the rain.
There you go. Well, for more information about timing and planting in your garden, contact your local county extension office and talk to a master gardener. For From the Ground Up, I'm Chris Mullins. We'll see you next time.
From the Ground Up is presented with the generous advice and assistance of Virginia Cooperative Extension. Visit their website at ext.vt.edu.
Hi, I'm Chef Tammy Brawley from the Green Kitchen. Coming up on Heart of the Home, a delicious apple crumb pie. We hope you'll stay with us.
And now, a sneak peek into a day in the life of a Virginia dairy cow. They get their day started. They have some lunch. Get some exercise. Spend time with their friends. And then end their day with dairy sweet dreams. Real dairy, real life, real delicious.
There are dozens of ways to bake an apple pie. Chef Tammy Brawley shows us her own way to bake this classic American dessert in the heart of the home.
Hi, I'm Chef Tammy Brawley from the Green Kitchen. Welcome to Heart of the Home. I'm going to show you guys how to make a delicious apple crumb pie. The best thing about this recipe is it's 6 ingredients or less. Everybody's always looking for simplicity when it comes to these things. And then the second best thing about this recipe is it's my daughter's birthday cake. She never wants cake for her birthday. She always wants my apple crumb pie. So we're going to start with some apples. I really love to use a crisp apple. I don't care to use the Red Delicious because I feel like they're a little bit too watery, but I do like to use a Gala or a Wine Sap perhaps, even a Pink Lady, anything that's real kind of a sharp. And the first thing you want to do is to peel your apple. I've already peeled about 6 or so. For a 9-inch crust, it takes about 7 apples or so. It just depends on the depth of your pie shell. And you can certainly do homemade shells with this. That's great as well. But for time purposes, it's always fine to use one out of the freezer. We have a Pillsbury crust right here, already ready. And then we're going to core our apple. All right, then we throw our slices into a bowl. And then we're going to take about 1/2 cup of white sugar mixed with a teaspoon of allspice. I just like allspice because it gives it all of those flavors there, not just cinnamon. If you don't have allspice and you just want to use cinnamon, there's nothing wrong with that. But I personally prefer to use allspice. And you want to mix that up. And you want to get this going pretty much first before you do the rest of your pie. All right. And now you want to make your apple crumb topping. And as far as your crust goes, there's a couple different rules of thumb here. One, you can either dock it, meaning using a fork or a pie docker. You can pre-bake it or not pre-bake it. The difference being when you do pre-bake it, you're going to get a crispier crust. If you don't pre-bake it, it'll be a softer crust, but for apples and for as long as they're going to bake, it's going to taste delicious. In this case, you can also dock it or you can brush it with an egg wash. We're not going to do either of those at this moment in time, but we're going to leave that pie shell there. And then in another bowl, we have about 1/3 cup flour, and we're going to add about 1/2 cup of brown sugar. And then you want to add about 1/3 cup of cold butter. Now, this is where I believe in the right tool for the right job. I could do this easily with a fork if I wanted to, but I have a pastry blender which I love to use. It's just got some dull blades there, and you just want to get down and push this around. Oh, I lost a butter there. Okay, let's see how much of a mess I can make while I cook. So you're looking to get your butter kind of chunked up. You don't want it completely fine. You want to leave a few chunks of butter. That's going to help to flavor and soften the apples when it's baking. It's also better to use brown sugar for the crumb topping as opposed to white sugar. All right, the butter is broken up about as far as I want it. All right, now to put the apples into the shell, this is somewhat important. I would not want to dump the apples directly into the shell because a lot of water would have developed on the bottom, and I really don't want this pie soggy. So in addition to either docking the crust, as I mentioned at the beginning, or to brushing it with an egg wash, I would not dump the water from the apples in. Use your hands or a slotted spoon and put your apples in. Now what I typically like to do is do about half of the apples and then come back with the crumb topping. Do some of the crumb topping here. And I've made those pretty pies with the lattice toppings, and they're delicious, don't get me wrong, but there's something about this recipe that's just so much more attractive and tastes so much better. So we've got the rest of our apples, and it was about 7, as I said, and these were galas. All right, and then the rest of our crumb topping. Am I going to make a mess? Probably so. But is it going to taste delicious? You bet. Now we've had our oven preheating for about, I actually tend to do a lower temperature on these because the apples are thick and I don't want them to get overdone or overbake and brown but not be tender. So I actually drop my temperature on this oven to about 350, and then this bakes probably about 40 minutes or so. So we'll see that finished product shortly. All right, so our apple pie baked for about 40 minutes, and then of course you have to let it cool. We don't want to burn the roof of our mouth, and we're going to go ahead and cut a slice. This is a delicious apple pie. I know a lot of people are kind of purists. They want just the pie itself. I know some people like ice cream with it. I've even known people to put cheddar cheese with it. I'm not so much about the cheddar cheese, although I do like sweet and savory together. And they say the first slice is always the worst, right? So I don't expect this to be any different. Well, it's not too terribly bad. Let's get some of that extra on the bottom there, right? And there you have it, apple crumb pie using 6 ingredients or less. I'm Chef Tammy Brawley from the Green Kitchen. Join us next time on Heart of the Home.
Recipes from the heart of the home can be found on the Virginia Farm Bureau website at vafb.com/recipes, as well as on Chef Tammy Brawley's website at greenkitchenrichmond.com.
There were 687 commercial apple orchards in Virginia in 2017, and Virginia growers brought home $34.5 million from the sale of their apples a couple of years ago. While you'll find the occasional apple orchard elsewhere, the Old Dominion's apple industry has always been centered in the northern tip of the state. Many Virginia apples are raised for juice and, more recently, for a growing hard cider industry that needs as much local product as possible. But you can also find delicious, fresh Virginia apples at farm stands every fall, along with apple butter, apple sauce, and other treats.
Did you know part of Virginia could be considered the Midwest? In this week's County Agricultural Close-Up, Burke Moeller reports that Lee County farmers represent the largest economic engine in their community.
Lee County is as far west as you can get in Virginia. Residents here like to say this is where Virginia begins. Its western tip is in the Cumberland Gap, made famous by Daniel Boone, and is also home to Lincoln Memorial University's veterinary school. The county has vast mountainous landscapes and is home to many other points of interest, including White Rocks in the western end of the county to the Stone Face Rock on the eastern side. Charlie Carter grew up in Lee County, went away to serve 20 years in the Navy, and came back to pursue his passion in raising beef cattle, a passion that was instilled at a young age.
What put farming in my heart was the beef program. We raised beef, and I did that. And my dad was a mechanic, so we just had a small barn lot. But the extension agents were fantastic back then and helped me get started, and my neighbors helped me, and local farmers helped. And so that kind of got it in my blood.
Onza Fisher has been raising cattle for 50 years. He's seen a lot of changes over that time and is grateful for some of the advances in technology.
It's got easier with the machinery, and from when I started, even myself, I've got better machinery and a lot more machinery than what we had back then and years ago, and sure beats a team of mules, I know that.
Judy Williams owns 2 small businesses in Lee County, Old Virginia Log Homes and Axe Handle Distilling. She and her late husband started by making their own log house, and things took off.
After we started our house and finished it, it just mushroomed into, we did a few the first year, and then a few more the second year, and then we have done up to about 60 houses a year.
Williams' newest venture, Axe Handle Distilling, opened last year. It features a tasting room, a distillery, and a stage that's used for open mic nights. She hopes tourism will spark more economic activity in the county.
We still have farming, but the tobacco is pretty much gone. The coal mining is gone. And we feel that tourism is the answer. We feel that we need to promote tourism in order to bring other people into our county. We just think that would be the answer.
Lee County is both rural and remote. The county seat is Jonesville, which is not far from the Lee County Airport. With medical care so far away, local leaders are hoping to expand the airport in order to build a medevac capability. That would be good news for farmers.
We need to have the capability of getting people who are hurt in agricultural accidents to the trauma unit as quickly as possible. That trauma 1 unit is located in Johnson City, the closest one in Johnson City, Tennessee, which is 70 miles away. So if we have a medevac unit here, we can shorten that time from between accident and treatment.
Lee County is closer to 9 other state capitals than it is to Richmond, which is some 350 miles away. Raleigh, North Carolina, Columbia, South Carolina, Atlanta, Georgia, Nashville, Tennessee, Charleston, West Virginia, Frankfort, Kentucky, Columbus, Ohio, and Indianapolis, Indiana are all closer than Richmond. And the western tip of Lee County in the Cumberland Gap is closer to Montgomery, Alabama than Richmond. This part of Virginia is as far west as you can get. It's known as the Pinnacle, and behind me is where the state lines of Virginia, Kentucky, and Tennessee meet. It's farther west than Pittsburgh, even farther west than Detroit. Lee County has a total of 830 farms, covering 94,904 acres. The market value of all agricultural products is $15,266,000. Livestock makes up the bulk of that, producing $11,293,000 each year. Cattle and calves account for $11,021,000, while sheep, goats, and other livestock come in at a distant $144,000. Horses, ponies, mules, burros, and donkeys bring in $51,000. Overall, crops account for $3,973,000. Hay comes in at $2,023,000. Vegetables bring in $570,000, and grains bring in $448,000. Lee County producers have had to adapt to changes in the marketplace. Amy Byington grew up on a tobacco farm and is now the county extension agent. She says there are experiments underway that could advance new opportunities for farmers here.
One of them that I'm working on is working on specialty grains. So we've got some demonstration plots and some research plots on malted barley. And we've had 2 growers to grow malted barley successfully in the county. And we're actually working on developing a grain terminal, working with Invest Southwest and Department of Mines Mineral Energy and a few other partners to bring that to this area. And that is supposed to be specifically trying to work with the craft beverage industry. So malting different grains, including rye, wheat.
Lee County had been in a dry spell when we visited. So when remnants of Hurricane Fred passed through the area, the farmers here were grateful for the rainfall. The wet weather didn't deter Kevin Slemp from holding a scheduled cattle sale on his property, and it was good for the grapes in Robert Boss Vineyard. The rain didn't seem to bother the cattle on Jeff Rowlett's farm either. Rain or shine, the farmers in Lee County are ready for the changes on the horizon, and they're determined to keep agriculture part of their culture for generations to come. In Lee County, Virginia, I'm Burke Moeller reporting.
We're so glad you could join us this week to celebrate all the bounty Virginia has to offer. From the kitchen to your home and garden to our beautiful wide open spaces, we are proud to say that this is real Virginia. For everyone from the Virginia Farm Bureau, thanks for watching. Make it a great week.
Home will always be Virginia, between the Blue Ridge and Chesapeake Bay.